How's it going, y'all? Welcome back to the Misplay for Game podcast. It's been a year, and as always, it's Andrew or Elixir.
Hey gang, it's me, Tom from the internet, your old friend of a year, but you're gonna have to put up with me a little longer.
And I am here, Terry or All Might, whichever one you
How's it going,
prefer
y'all?
at this
Welcome back
point.
to the Misplay for Game. I've done that thing again where I didn't mute YouTube. So, you know, we've been doing this for a year, but some of these issues just straight up don't change. But that's why we're here always, to keep just yapping, sometimes yapping into like the apocalypse. But yeah, how's it going, fellas?
Good.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
We said last week it's not like clinical precision for game, and I like to think that we keep that energy going forward for the second year. You know what I mean? Like, we're not gonna fix it. It just gets like kind of bigger.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those things where we get the better production value, but so you can watch the errors happen in cleaner quality.
So far it's been like, I'll schedule guest approximately 1 hour ago. You freak. Let's go. I'm ready to support the boys.
Yeah, this is actually a really funny way it turned out, because real ones know from like the early days of Misplay for Game, back before it even had its name. The original plan was for these three right here to be like the podcast crew, and then Terry couldn't make the first episode, so we got Marcio as a guest, and then he never left.
Shouts Pod Squad. I was rewatching the first episode to go through some of the stuff we talked about, and I was like, dang, I can't believe we used that for like 10 weeks.
Yeah, that's what happened. I mean, we let people vote on it, and
Astral Caster was robbed. I'm here 1 year in. Astral Caster was so funny, and no one gave it to us.
I'm just saying, you could just run the poll again. Forget the fact that you'd have to rebrand, do everything. Just run the anniversary poll. Astral Casters.
Yeah, every year I petition to rename this podcast, and every year I will lose because it is like self-fulfilling. It's one of those.
Misplay for Game LLC.
Yeah, soon for real this time.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. Marcio may join us later. We'll see how things go. This was kind of we did want to do the weekend, and the weekend fell through, and then we were going to do today, and then we found out there was a slight schedule clash. And as much as it would be really funny to be on brand and just like be a day late to the anniversary, we were like kind of like, we're already kind of streaming on a Monday because we're 2 days late, so
Yeah.
might as well at least link it up with the date.
Oh, fair.
That's how it goes. But we got a couple things we're gonna go through tonight. While the dog is away, the cats come out to play. So we'll be covering an event tonight, because I know we've gotten a couple people being like 2.0, and I'm like, yeah, it's real, it's cool, it's cheap as hell.
It's real for the US stuff.
Yeah,
It's not real for us yet.
It is a
real
very
for
funny one.
Jambo, but yeah, let's
Yeah, he's got a box, that lucky whatever. Listen, I don't want to be too bad immediately minute one, but
Did he get it whilst he was he was judging the regional, right? So he was abroad.
No, he got it here in the UK.
Oh,
he has his box. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
Could not be me.
I have a couple singles I picked up online. But for like I don't know what I was doing. We'll talk about decks in a minute. We'll do like a what do we want to play, because it's been a minute since we went over like an actual.
Yeah.
We do like a micro set review of things we all think are cool or something. But we'll come back to that.
Jamie's at his pre-release, and I just told him the things I needed, because I've got all my bulk from Jambo. It's like, oh, he has his SRs, and it's like that. Oh yeah, I've got some stuff you need, and then 10 minutes later, it's like, yeah, I've got even more. And I'm like, splendid. I do not have to pull on 2.0.
Yeah, 2.0 is cool. We've had an event to talk about. We have all the fun prospect of playing catch-up format Digimon for a little while, actually. I was going through this. This has the makings of a long set. Like, this goes up until EX8, which is the end of December. So, I mean, I guess technically, depending on your region, you're playing Nats format with LM stuff, but like, that's its own thing. We'll kind of talk about that in a bit.
Oh, what is NA playing with scrambles?
Yeah, and North American Nats in Florida, I believe it's January 6th.
Yeah, I think they decided to do it in January for everyone else again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the LM, what's it called in English? I forget what the actual, like...
It's like Forbidden Weiss.
Forbidden toward Weiss.
Yeah.
Something. It's coming out December, like, 14th or something. So it's like, it's just one of those where, because it'll be the 2 weeks, you'll get the block, and then they'll be available at the start of January for players playing that format. So they're gonna have scrambles and stuff, which is crazy. Spoilers for the decks that topped this week in 2.0, but if they all had scrambles, they'd be even more insane. So just one of those. But yeah, we'll go through that. We got a lot of nice love on the chatting about stuff last week, kind of going through some old Misplay for Game branded mem gauge takes, and we'll kind of through maybe one or two of those tonight.
The website doesn't. I'd hate to say it, but the name of the set in English is Digimon Card Game Special Limited Set.
Really? Okay, I was wondering why I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I just checked the Twitter. It doesn't say the name, and I click on the product page to go from that, and yeah, it's Special Limited Set is what we're actually getting. Maybe because it's technically not LM4, it's like, you know, stuff. Yeah, it's stuff that we should have. So
yeah, 3, 4, and some promos.
Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. But yeah, we'll go through. Hey, maybe we go through have a chance to go through some of that stuff today too, because we finally got some more of the reveals on that, which was fun. But yeah, we'll knock a couple of these out. So, fellas, let me direct your attention to Core TCG, because as always, when it comes to like getting an event out and getting it in front of people as quickly as possible, Core TCG are really good at like being one of the first couple of TOs to run an event in North America over the format. We had an event on, I believe it was the 10th, which was yesterday, Sunday, for Core TCG. I had an online webcam regional. And the pie chart looks a little different from some of the other stuff we've seen for the 2.0 results. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Yeah, that's a lot of Mirage. We'll talk about it. But a lot of the other stuff in here is kind of, especially I would say, well, there's two outliers. We'll talk about Beelstarmon in a second. But it is a lot of the like 17 EX7 and the new decks that we kind of are expecting to see. But if you've been watching the show for a while, there are a couple names here that you'll recognize as decks that we've talked about. So I think we should rip the Band-Aid off and start at the top if you guys are cool with that. The
Galaxy
first two
Mirage.
archetypes are both Galaxy. They're both like Galaxy Toolbox. I would say this first place one by Charles, I actually believe this is Charles's second Mirage top cut with this like specific archetype. Obviously, this is the first one with the Shamamon and the new access to Ryugamon, because it's like, you know, what if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But yeah, a lot of good stuff to talk about here. I wanted to cover this, obviously, because we've talked about Mirage as a deck and the Galaxy Toolbox as a deck independent of each other on this channel. And also, you know, the relative strength. I think we're all either have, you know, we all have opinions on Mirage Galgamon here on the three of us here. Maybe we've seen enough of our life. We maybe are ready to do something new with the game, but you know, I think everyone at least has been on one episode where we've all had a chance to say we have normal thoughts on that card. But Galaxy has had a chance to kind of like pick up and get its new toys. And it was a deck that we anticipated to be really good because it was getting things like the Shamamon that Andrew's highlighting. But also it is getting, because of the way that they've done these combined sets, it's getting the cards it would have gotten in 19 early. It's sealing all of the like decode Ryugamon stuff. So if there ever was a format for you to play Galaxy Toolbox, it is right now. And I think it creates like an interesting discussion, because it's like, you know, when we talk about like combined sets and like kind of alternate formats that we're going to play compared to how Japan had them, we're kind of doing a like, oh yeah, we're basically playing like BT18 plus with like a couple extra cards. So like Lordknight and Dynasmon get all their cards, Fish gets all of its cards, and another Lucemon gets all of its cards. Oh, and Millenniummon. Yeah, there's like a bunch of stuff.
Millennium, if you play like in like pure intended line, has all of its stuff.
Yeah, so we'll have a chance to talk about another one of those decks here in a second, but it's kind of a cool thing to see that, like, you know, it turns out if you do print 2 waves of support at a time, a deck does break. Do we have anything we want to specifically cover in this list? Because I've talked a lot about Mirage Galaxy. I want to, if you guys have any thoughts you'd like to share with the class.
Well, I'm just more curious about, like, because I think I read, because is it Ryugu? Is it Ryugu?
Ryugu, yeah, Ryugu.
Ryugumon. Like, seems like a pretty, like, cool card. First of all, when Decode seems like an insane
Dude,
mechanic.
Decode is bananas. I don't know what they're doing.
Look, like it's more for the fact of like, well, no, just you can do it by your own effects. I think I read an article. I think it's like, is it Jumbo Jank, like the door thing? Like I saw, what is it, Lunamon and Ryugamon. I'm like, so you're telling me you get 2 memory and spit out a 5? Okay, cool. You know what, bro? That's fine. Perfectly chill. Perfectly understandable.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid. And then like the even worse part with that particular interaction is like you bounce Ryugu to hand, get the 5. In this deck, the 5 has an on play, and then you can evolve into Ryugumon and get its when digivolving again. So it's like there's like components to this where it's like if you start doing like donuts and reverting the 5 up and down, like you can get some kind of stupid effects out of it. So I mean, this card is so pushed. Like they're trying to take fish in a direction that's not just like board swarm aggro, which is like, you know, for all intents and purposes, actually a pretty cool line because it's like the playing from sources is kind of more interesting than just being like fish good stuff. It's like it's a nice like change of pace for the deck. But man, like y'all, I've read some pushed super rares. This is one of them.
Why can you trigger it yourself?
Yeah.
That's my biggest issue.
It's like they were like, oh yeah, Decode is maybe kind of fair and balanced, or sorry, partitions may be fair and balanced. What if we just like up to 11 on this one?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those like they did it like so the fish can use it in a very specific way, but I think maybe they made a mistake having it be Decode best color in the game instead of Decode questionable archetype.
Yeah, if it said blue level 5 fish, that might have been all right. But...
Yeah, like I don't know. I feel like that's one of those things where like decoy, like we know that they can put the word decoy and then some terrible conditions on it. They could have put that on Decode to at least stop this from out the gate, like just LeBron performance.
Yeah. I mean, we're giving a lot of love to Ryugumon. Obviously, Mirage is still insane. And we've talked a little bit about it. Hexablaumon, uniquely well positioned in a hybrid format because things aren't starting with level 2 sources. They're going from Tamer up. So Hexablaumon sees a little bit more disproportional value in those kind of scenarios. You don't have to worry about like purple hybrid loop milling you if it can't ever attack. So Hexablaumon does kind of offer some inherent resistance to that. But also Iceclad, it's super pushed. We're going to talk a little bit about it. There are no Tommy Hemi good stuff piles in this top cut, but if you've kept up with some of the stuff people have been yapping about, it's a deck on the fringes. So yeah, big fan. The second place list by Night Turtle also relatively kind of like I would say we're looking towards a how do I put it? We're looking towards kind of a like, because we're so close to the topping lists of previous formats, previous Eastern formats, like the recently finished Japanese BT18 going into BT19, a lot of these lists are close to card for card. We are missing the Wisteria memory boost, which finds red and blue, like of any color, or sorry, of any level. It's just like a mem boost for 2, digs 3 cards. If you guys haven't seen those promos, there's a bunch of them. So obviously this deck, a tiny bit, I would say, worse, but its consistency, not overall too much like a knockdown for it or anything like that. It'll still definitely perform. And like some of the numbers get tweaked. In this one, it's like 2 Ryugu instead of 2 Hexablau, but like, overall, very, very good deck, and you're going to be seeing a lot of it. My, love for making the clickbait reactionary content on the first week of a format. I personally believe Mirage and a Galaxy engine is the better way to play the deck in 19 onwards, because it's got mem blocker stuff. It's got the like pretty ridiculous aggro from Apollomon, your opponent having to guess what other floodgate pieces you're on, Ryugumon just being a really obnoxious other thing to sit on that's not Mirage. Like, this deck kind of has it all right now, and I low-key think is one of the like top 3 decks of a format. So
now that you mention it, do we know the regional that happened in EU, whether that was a 2.0 or if that was an EX7 event?
I believe it was an EX7 event, so okay. I can confirm that really quick. But as far as I'm aware, it's because we have not had the elapsed like wait period, especially because the Netherlands themselves were not a like region where they were actually already playing with the cards, there's been some Asmodee product delays. So yeah. It's a funny one. So yeah, we'll go through some of that. I'm just gonna make sure I've closed my door.
Yeah, I know this Saturday's EX7 because of the delays, but I don't know if I wasn't sure if that was something that was like every European event is down to that, or if it was kind of like organizer, because then maybe like offline events are more likely to. I feel like offline events are more likely to be a little bit more flexible on release dates based on it being like, oh, most of the people are from this country and therefore they probably have the cards, or wouldn't have the cards, I guess, since it was over in the Netherlands. So yeah, but yeah, if it was the EX7, that makes sense. Shine being good, who could have seen that coming?
Shine's list is interesting. I don't know if this is the first time you guys have seen this result. It's kind of, I would say, like it's almost the closest I've seen to a just return to a BT13-14 Shinegreymon list. There's no like pretense of being a yellow deck here. This is like 2 Crimson Blaze, 3 of the SR burst mode instead of the Ace burst mode. It's
just pure aggro, which arguably I can see being like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Just high roll your way to success, baby. Like swing 2 checks with a Marcus, burst mode, swing, burn 2, another effectively 2 checks, you know.
This is I woke up the day of the regional and forgot to submit my deck list kind of list.
Well, I'll say this as well. So Shine has a lot of things going for it in a format where people like to do 1 damage at a time and not outright kill you, because every Marcus that doesn't make it back to you in a check becomes a top security. And Shine famously has a very like, I don't really want to chip their security, it gets bad. And in a format where like, Sunrise Buster is a card of all time. Offense training, or a known quantity of like, use that plus a BT12 Marcus to basically make a stack out of nothing. And Crimson Blaze is like the best red. It's probably at least a top 2 red card of all time. Like, it's super broken and not fun to play with or play against.
Like, it's very interesting because this is all I look at this and I go, what is the people doing this? Like, there was before, I think 24 where I just basically played like a BT10 just mon list and was like, you know what, we ball, like this. I look at this, I'm like, not a single new card, not like maybe I fit a couple of extra Marcuses in, 10 Marki, what you want, not just stick to the basics, bread and butter. If it works, it works. You got third, so
yeah, it's a lean list too. One of the things, like I mentioned, this is kind of a return to some of those like 13-14 ratios, is that there are 6 level 5s in this deck and 4 level 6s. Like, we are here to find your target line and resolve it as quickly as possible. And that plays well into some of the decks in 2.0. I keep almost saying VT19. In 2.0, it plays really well because like one of the, like, I would say, main kind of aspects of this archetype, or sorry, of this format that we know going into it, is that like hybrids, very strong, very, very well represented in terms of the new support. And with that, a lot of like ace threats. So making kind of sort of fake sticky bodies like Marcus really goes a long way towards like pushing your lethal clock. And they are notably not, all of Marcus Damon's text is on your turn when it suspends, not a when attacking or a when digivolving. So it can do things like play around Venusmons in those yellow purple toolbox decks. It does well into interactions like playing around like de-digivolve stuff because your things aren't leveled to Digimon. Purple removal doesn't work on Marcus because he isn't a leveled Digimon. So obviously some of the adaptations we've seen, like you guys said, that like straight up is a list that you could have seen a while back. Maybe there's something to be said for missing the Marcus that has, the Shine Gray that is like fake protection. But bro, like, if you're dead on turn 5, like, your opponent's got to sign the match slip.
Yeah, pretty much. I think like it's Shine. I mean, if it works, it works, and I can see why some people don't play like the yellow pieces. Like, they're really fun. They make the deck like more nuanced, but nuance doesn't mean stuff. I mean, if you're losing, so just kill them.
Yeah. The other thing I will point out is that like there's a compared to some of the 17 and EX7 results that we've been going through, especially if you guys have had a chance to check out any of the regionals from this past format, there was a lot of purple and blue. And I'm not going to start this and say that that's not still true. Purple and blue are definitely kind of the colors to look at here. But you'll notice, like, this is not the only red deck we're going to talk about tonight. And I think there's a weird, like, 3-horse race of, like, blue decks that play in their own archetypes, purple decks that are kind of the most powerful way to play the card game right now, and red decks that are kind of like the answer to those first things. So Shine, again, does well into purple, and we'll see other decks that do well into that sort of thing in a minute. Speaking of, here's the third Mirage. Like I said, we took a lot of Mirage to talk about. There's only really one new inclusion in this list at the moment, which is that the BT19 Honkunmon is here. It's... you know, you don't come to us for the clickbait takes. You usually come to us for the yapping. But I would, you know, have a favorite copy of this card, because I wonder if you'll have more reason to play more than one of the in a deck after a little while. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I feel like they printed Mother Shoto as like a, hey, this answers the thing. And they're like, hey, maybe it shouldn't answer too many things. Because, you know, blue doesn't tend to get big. So, like, the idea, I guess, is if you can't be big, they've kind of shifted. Like, I mean, Deep Savers is a great example of like we're not going to make our guys big. If you shrink them or they're within a popping range of like a blaze or a red option, so be it. But damn, we are not dying in battle. We're tired of this. Either we're just not giving you the option, or if we do die in battle, no. Which seems to be like the thing, and the fish kind of like shows that. So I wouldn't be surprised if this card stuck around as long as Mother Shoto is around, as kind of like a it kind of stonewalls every blue deck that can't get big enough.
I mean, true, and it also like gives you potential for like if you had ace play and stuff, because they can't swing over by battle. You have to force them to kind of like, I guess, get rid of it by an effect, but like at least that's something that they have to play around. And as known blue plugin enjoyer I look at this card and go, it's much better, and I wish I had it. So
yeah, I'll give you this. I get the comparisons, and comparing this to some of the existing blue power like blue plugin, or even like the old unblockable stuff like Koji. I would say there's a big difference between can't be blocked and finally getting can't have your attack target changed. This is something they have yet to give to blue, and putting it kind of in a generic slot is an interesting approach. Like I said, I don't necessarily think it's the best. It's one of the best cards in a couple of the decks that we're going to talk about tonight, but it isn't the only way to build them, and it's, like Andrew said, probably a reaction to some more of the control decks that have popped their way up in the format. But again, this is also Mirage, right? So it's
really interesting that like Mirage, you would think they might play for like, you know, mega high roll or whatever, but considering they have a 1-of, but like the other Huankun is at a 4 rather than the unblockable one. That's kind of just like a means to an end, whereas this is like like if you want to be belligerent, you catch someone with their pants down, then
time to unsuspend and go for game, right? Like, yeah. Well, one pushes more damage, one makes your Magnamon unstoppable. So
speaking
who came first?
Yes, even just as a 2-of. So Zudo still that guy for real.
Yeah, it's one of those to look at. So I mean, Magnamon's a known quantity. You love him or hate him, he's here to play the game forever. But one of the things that has sort of stayed around is Sora-Jo. Yeah. I mean, it was a known quantity to beating Mind Link decks, notably like Doragoromon, like SOC black stuff, and tangentially like Takamikazuchi, but like, how many turns did you play the game against Takamika where it didn't kill you? So that's the idea with Sora-Jo. It is cool to see as well. One of the things that I think is interesting about this card as like a continued like part of game developing here is that like Sora-Jo is like a weirdly good counter to Decode. So like the more popular Ryugumon is, the more Sora-Jo becomes like a relevant card, because if it's dropping a sourceless level 5 when it leaves the board and then your turn starts and you go to 7, that level 5 is probably not the second round. Yeah. So
I was gonna say, I actually really hate this like 4 lineup, but you mentioning Decode actually kind of puts this into perspective. Like if Ryugu's gonna like suicide itself out and take something with you, like bounce is one of the things that armor traditionally struggles into. So kind of like going 3s on the BT13 Magnamon that will float into a new body when it gets like flashbanged by Decode is it's an interesting like approach to it for like consistency. Like sometimes you see it more when instead of Sora Joe they have the Davis Ken, because then you free play your Vmon, you evolve into Magnamon on top of it. When it floats out, you get to draw one and replay the Magnamon, so you're not actually going negative from field, and you're getting your Magnamon back. Is kind of like an idea where you see that. Like, so you sometimes see higher counts of BT13 Magna when you're on the Davis Ken, but yeah, not nearly as much with the Sora Joe. So I guess it was just kind of like maybe a read into stuff like Mirage. I mean, what, 3 Mirages in top 4? So, I mean, I guess it clearly helped them get there.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I think there's also like as we continue into 2.0, where like this is such this is the first regional of a format, and we've not had a event in a format like this in the Western format so far. So I want to be clear when I say that like you're kind of teching for like a hypothetical field almost as much as you're teching for a metagame. And so like the assessment of like, oh, I know Mirage is good. I know Galaxy Toolbox works. I know all these other decks are popular in theory and they converted in Japan is one thing. But like, I don't envy the start of a format Mirage players, Magnamon players trying to work out like your counts on things. So like kudos to Mimsh for figuring the line out. It's one of those ones where it's like Magnamon is as much a toolbox deck as anything else. But yeah, geez. Speaking of toolbox, SOC Takamika is a fun one, right? It's a deck that like sort of is supposed to play within the confines of its own like waves of support. It's like gotten the first 14 line all the way up, and then it got the like red stuff sprinkled in kind of continually. But like it isn't necessarily a deck where you go, oh, I know exactly how this is supposed to be built. Like it wasn't something that came out with like an established like, oh, this is obviously the 50 that you play. Like in a lot of cases happen. And I think there's some interesting like thought to this. Everyone and their mother will tell you Dorugamon is insane and kind of a crazy broken card. Yeah. I don't disagree. I think it's very good. But there are like a couple things in 17 that this deck does specifically very well against, which is that in any scenario where you need to worry about like a kind of like alternate milling condition, like a purple hybrid win condition might represent, this deck stands to do a lot better. Yeah. It is made a little worse than it was in the Eastern format because they don't have scrambles. So part of what made the deck even crazier in Japan was that you could like kind of just start the turn with a Lugamon to like pick up another AG gate, another memory, and then promote the thing from raising to combo off. But there's no like definitively solved variant on it here yet. But I do still think even without scrambles, it will still prove to be a deck to like keep your eye on. You guys got any thoughts on this one?
No, for me, it's Fenrir. You'll either get the OTK and kill me, or somehow not see the Kazuchimon for turn, and it's good. It's just like it's definitely a cool deck, and I mean, it's like I think it's one of those things where if you resolve your combo, you should just win. Like there's no real argument against it. It just seems like a pretty cool list.
One of the things I do think we'll see more of going towards this format, because like I said, it's going to go for a little while. It will pick up its scrambles as we go. This is like a little meta prediction that we can come back to later on in a couple weeks, which I think will be fun, is when they got scrambles in Japan, it was the start of people realizing you could just cut the other Lugamon. It wasn't to zero, but like some rookie lineups for a lot of the like, especially the like topping variants, were like, we're talking 5-6 Lugamons tops, and just the rest is Ukomon. And it was like, it is the like just play your target level 3 deck to pop off and win the game. Yeah. So I wonder as we get closer to mid-December when we see that sort of event start up, it's like when will we see that number begin to tick down? And then like in response, like Mist Mem Boost was a popular thing for a little while.
I mean, they also have the 2-color Mem Boosts where purple and yellow finds grape finds your the Amethyst Mem Boost finds your entire line.
Yes, that's true too. Yeah, so very funny stuff. Would love to see it like kind of develop into something else, but as it stands right now, this is kind of close to a 50 we'd have seen in EX7. So yeah. Mining decks are good, man.
Yeah, I mean, also, I think getting to do the regional that we casted, we really got to see that even the non-optimal Lugamon really does still just facilitate in this deck the entire combo. Like, when they would make the 2-color Luger in the back, I'm like, oh, you know, kind of a stinky start, and then they would promote, and then the game ended. And I'm like, oh, I guess he still got it like that.
Yeah, sometimes you just pop off. I mean, the other thing is like, we talked about like non-optimal lines of play. It has the option to just play board clear now too, which is funny. So, speaking of board clear, this is a deck I know Terry's been very excited to finally get his mitts on. So
we get to acknowledge this man's existence. I'm so happy. It only took 18 sets, but we got there.
Yeah, shoutouts to all my Rumble Arena 2 Andes. That was my jam. This character was nuts in the boss fight. Yeah, so let's go through this really quick because we're going to talk about Purple Hybrid a couple times tonight, and then Purple Hybrid is going to kind of come up one last time with Beelstar. Spoilers. There's a couple ways that you built this deck. If you guys have not kept up with it, Eggman Events actually, like, kudos to the team over at Eggman Events. They've done this, like, kind of like co-writers and collaborators deck profiles page this time for the format, which is really cool. Kind of get your hands into like understanding what's going on early. Like, here's what's up with Lucemon, here's what's up with Blue Hybrid, here's what's up with blah blah blah. So there's a ton of stuff where you can kind of like learn how the decks work. And so Purple Hybrid broadly, I would say, is two things. There's like mill stuff with the Duskmon, Velgarmon, and then that's like a much more like aggressive, loopy oriented gameplay style, and a like yellow-purple toolbox, which is what we're looking at here. So, like I mentioned, Terry's been a big fan of this deck. He's been testing the heck out of it. I've played against him doing it.
This is such a Terry-coded list. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's a couple cards in here that when this got up on the page, I was obsessed with it. We can go through them kind of one at a time.
That's really cool.
If we're up for it.
Yeah.
So if you guys don't know, I think the place to start, considering this is largely just a new archetype, and this is the first time it's made an appearance on the pod, is Loemon. A lot of the level 4s, Loemon is kind of weird because unlike most of the other human form hybrids, it's a rare and not a super rare, because the super rare in purple was Duskmon. Yeah. But basically what they do is they evolve, and when they attack, they can evolve either something else or a Digimon into a hybrid for cost -1. So a lot of the typical ideas that you kind of get through as you're playing through this deck is you make your human tamer evolve into the human form hybrid, and then on attack it can evolve into the beast form hybrid.
No, it's the other way around.
Or is it?
With the new versions like Kendo, it's beast first into things. So like the Lobo and Aguni were kind of like promo Lobo, promo Aguni, where you'd go Burning Gray first, swing, have the choice to raid, and then you switch into Aguni make Ancient is how they did it. The way you're describing is like the BT7 and BT12 hybrids, where you would go human first, then you'd end up on beast. They switched it around for this, which is why it's really interesting that they switched it back around for Loemon.
For Dusk and Velgar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dusk and Velgar and Loemon and Kaiser Leo all do this, where basically the idea is you swing into this, either turn into your 5 or into your 4, and cycle and control the board. And then you basically build a larger and larger mounting thread of board control because of the inherits on these cards, which is all turns when it would leave the battle other than by your own effect, you play a tamer card out from the source. So your tamers basically never go to waste. You continue to mount advantage, and then in this deck you have a little bit of a toolbox. So the Kaiser Leo is just a retaliation body, which means when you're swinging your 4 and turning into an on-attack retaliating abomination that pops a level 4 or lower, you're typically 2 for 1ing and then playing a tamer. So it's really good at fighting on board at a low level.
Yeah, it's been really great when you play it. I think one of the weirdest things to think about with this deck is, like, for example, the Loemon isn't like all the other human hybrids. So it doesn't actually, reduce the cost for something. So that's really fun to know. It doesn't do it from trash, though. Yeah, just do it from trash, which, again, leads into the whole, like, recursion of, like, swing, go into Kaiser, place a guy, or swing, go into Rihi, get a tamer, jamming. Like, I think that it really lends into the strength of, like, purple hybrid of the recursiveness, whichever line you decide to go into, which is really good.
And then obviously the other advantage this deck gets to play with is like we'll cover Rihimon as a card, but yeah, Jet Sylphimon's back. You can evolve into Jet Sylphimon for really good, like, kind of efficient lines too. A Jet Sylphimon with the inherit to spit out a tamer is very strong. the new Rihimon is also a super. I mean, like he's kind of in line with the other established power budget of the modern level 5s for hybrid. His thing is like warp from hand by placing the other names underneath a tamer. But it's jamming as a keyword, and then when digivolving, play a tamer from trash without paying the cost. So
yeah, specifically one with an inheritable,
amazing.
an inheritable effect, which is really good. It's like, you know how you talked about the thing about source strip as well. This can help you sometimes play under if they can bottom strip, because it places the 2 sources under the tamer, so you can do things like, if you say, for example, we're playing an SOC top end, let's say Darugamon, and you're playing the AG, you still can keep that under the source, still give yourself blocker and alliance, and you still get like all those really cool like abilities, which is quite nice. I wonder how many of the BT14 AGs are they playing?
2 and 2 on the AG count.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's just like getting the memory gain is really important in certain matchups, and I think just spawning out an AG after like going in from like retaliation, popping a 4 is just like there's so many really cool niches you can do with the deck. The other MVP, of course, is the little next to the all the 6s are just fire. Let's just put this out the way.
It's a bit of a toolbox thing. You guys are gonna notice getting into this that kind of the only hybrid adjacent 6 this archetype tends to play is Shadow Seraphimon. But that's just sort of because if you're playing a 8K jamming on when digivolving spawn a second tamer body, you may as well make a toolbox of yellow stuff to stick on top of it or use aces. So you want to shout out Centralmon, I assume.
No, it is the best card.
It's nuts, right? Like best on attack card. -10 something is just absolutely incredible. I'm not even gonna pretend. It's also kind of like, what is it? So -6 off the first swing, 4 from the inherit, and then overclock is -3 plus -6.
Yep.
So -19k over the course of the turn. Like, it's pretty good.
plus the pseudo blitz omni when you've been slowly chipping them away. Rihi swings in with jamming. They're like, oh, I still have a turn. No, you don't. Just slap it down has been really good.
And then it's kind of like a Blitz Omni, right?
Yeah, I really am enjoying that a lot of colors have started finding their like gross Blitz Omnis. Like I think Marcio got accused of having it as a win more card, but I think Zed Millenniummon being like purple and black's Blitz Omni if you happen to be on like a Deltamon package or anything else is really funny. Like more colors are just like you thought you had an extra turn because I'm sideways and can't kill you, but want to see this cool new keyword? Please read the webcomic.
Yeah, for real. There are a couple standouts to this list that we're not seeing a ton of. And then, like, obviously, we're saving Dusk and Velgar to talk about later. A bunch of Leomon's a card we haven't had a chance to speak on in a little while.
Great read if you hate armor.
Yeah, Heavy Leomon's, like, kind of underloved cousin. This card does not see a ton of success in its own archetype at the moment. The Leomon deck is still kind of playing just a Fortitude good stuff pile. But the idea is 6 or fewer total security cards reduces the play cost by 5, so down to 7, which is very, very good for what this card is about to do, which is on play, suspend something, and then all turns, a suspended Digimon is the trigger for this if one of your opponent's Digimon loses 4,000 DP and a security attack until the end of their turn. So it can happen once on your turn when the on-play resolves, and then immediately again when your opponent suspends something on their turn, which is, it's amazing. -8 is the number to stop a Rihimon on your opponent's side of the board being able to get in a Chep security. So
yeah, kills every armor as well. Miserable.
Yeah, this card's fantastic. It's cool because it comes down for a low number, and like I saw this and I was like, kind of ashamed that they didn't call like the level 5 like Leomon anything, because like evolving for any color Leomon level 5 in name, even though we have a Kaiser Leo as the level 4, it's like, man, a little bit of an unlucky one for the frontier flavor lovers.
Yeah, but it's still like it's still an interesting choice, like, because I think in my testing one of the issues you can have is that if you don't find the Jet Sylphie, like obviously you're getting advantage if they trip you and hit tamers and such, but like especially if you're playing the sort of like more like purple yellow kind of resource game grindier style, eventually you are going to be very low, and this stemming off aggression is a nice little tech.
Yeah, it also on its own sort of solves some of the Mirage problems because like if you're worried about getting chicked 3 times in one turn, 1 damage at a time, that now does 0 damage at a time. So there's a lot of power in that. And then speaking of neutering Mirage, the last card here is Venus. No one needs to sell you guys on Venusmon. Venusmon is basically the best yellow level 6 ever printed. I feel like I'm pretty confident in saying that. It certainly feels like it's the most consistently topping yellow 6.
Yeah, for sure.
It's partly just because it's so proactive. Just lingering all your opponent's effects are generally very powerful. People joke about Rosemon burst modes or ruin modes for a reason. Venusmon kind of being yellow's version of that is very strong. And then can't be attacked is also pretty good right now because other than the actual keyword raid, which I would say arguably the 2 best red decks in the format are not really using a ton of, red hybrid can kind of squeeze it in here and there, but it's not part of their main bread and butter. You're gonna see a lot more of like this being enough to stop things clapping back at you, which is great when you're chipping with a jamming level 5.
Yeah, especially when it's off of a tamer as well, so you don't feel as bad. Like obviously this list doesn't have any means of refreshing the recovery, but like sometimes all you need is 1 turn, especially if your tamer spits itself back out or you just cheated to get there. Like
yeah. And then also, to be fair, like even if they have like say their own inherent things, like something inherently has sec +1, so it works down. You have it prevents them from attacking the Venus, but it also means they have to expend the body because typically you're gonna have like the retaliation underneath as well. So like if you're gonna trade with me, you're gonna trade with me. It forces up like
the card basically, like the longer it stays on the field too, the more powerful that value engine becomes. I will say this, one of the things that we've seen kind of a shift towards in like a lot of the Japanese format is that like when the BT19 cards released, they got 19 as a whole set. So there was a relevant DP minus meta threat in a lot of the Sakuyamon archetype, like that, people have talked about Talmon loop till the cows come home at this point. If you guys aren't aware, the Homie East has a really cool video, you can break it down. But the idea is the new Talmon Ace basically just lets them kind of combo off into turns where they can make a ruin mode from nothing using Evo plugins or in some like deviant cases blue cards, which is very funny. So they can get away with some pretty crazy stuff. And in a format where that isn't as much of a concern, getting a like much more like proactive, low to the ground toolbox version like this one, where it's like the Duskmons and Velgramons. Again, we'll talk about them more in a minute. They are like high DP, efficient checking bodies. Rihimon is jamming. Venus is uninteractive on your opponent's turn. Like there's a lot of like, I'm safe to make my game plan look like this because I know you can't respond. So it's a very good like kind of placeholder to get into the format with. And you're going to see a lot of like quirky, the yellow deck builders who are like, I don't want to play the new yellow hybrid stuff. Like Koichi doesn't, or is it Koji or Koichi?
It's Koji, yeah.
Koji doesn't inspire me. I'm not into it right now. Look no further. Koichi has your back.
He is the better of the brothers, to be fair.
True. Yeah. Just keep him away from slanted like forms of locomotion because he will be in trouble. It's interesting as well because there's so much yellow good stuff at the top end that this list isn't using calling. Like the Jack Raid's really funny. Of course, there's like a random security bot. Like really, like, so many cards in this list exist to make sure Mirage doesn't one-shot you. It probably didn't happen. Like probably if this was Swiss, like they probably lost to one of the Mirages on the way. And if it was Top Cut, they definitely lost to one of the Mirages on the way. But it's still like funny in concept to have like sec -1, sec -1, Jack Raid insecurity, like all different things are like, man, I hope something bad happens to you.
This is one half of Purple Hybrid's interesting deck building philosophy. If we want to look at 8th place's Beelstar Purple Hybrid, we'll kind of get the other half of the coin. This is not a Purple Hybrid loop deck. I'm going to get out of this ahead of time. This is Beelstarmon doing what she does, which is basically playing whatever's Purple's fastest engine is. So this is, just to get a hit of this, it is a Mother Shoto shell with Beelstar stuck to it. If you guys don't know and you haven't channel, the purple list of or purple cards of all time is up publicly now, right? Because it's late or mid-November.
Yes, all of our bonus content right now is public. We'll change that at the end of this. As much as I'd love to give you like a wow, it's our anniversary thing, champions are paying for a reason. So
real. Yeah, so we've talked publicly on this channel about how crazy good certain purple historically powerful Digimon are. Beelstarmon making a case for it to be her again. Just abusing 7-cost option cards is kind of her whole MO, and so it is a monster of a deck. I'm a publicly on the record hater of this card. I think it's a super bad game tool to be in the game. It sort of just restricts everything they can ever print. I don't think they thought of this and Shine to Be when they printed Shoto, but here we are.
Funny ass card though.
Yeah, so maybe with the next wave of musket support coming out, they'll finally get rid of it or something. Touch wood. But here we are. So let's go over the actual meat and potatoes of purple hybrid, right? Let's talk about Duskmon and Velgarmon, because if you guys remember Millith from BT12. No, it was BT13. I'm thinking of the right format. The Japanese BT13 format introduced Millith, which was basically like the Beelstar, or not Millith. What am I talking about? I meant Millstar.
Millstar, yeah.
Yeah. Me losing myself in that. The Japanese BT13 format introduced Millstar, which was kind of like a Beelstarmon mill engine as the fastest way to get 7 play cost option cards into the trash to just kind of continually dunk Beelstarmon BT6. And it was super effective. And this deck is that again. This is Millstar's like facelift come back to play. So Duskmon, now that we can go over it, is on play when digivolving until the end of your opponent's turn. Change the color of something to or Digimon or Tamer to be clear, to one non-white color. And then when attacking, one of your guys can evolve into a level 4 hybrid from trash with cost minus. So this into Velgarmon is a body that basically loops, gains a bunch of mill off the top, and gains a bunch of DP. And then it can blow itself up to clear the board and play back the Tamer that you used. So all of this together means that you've got Koichis to really aggressively push for damage. So this deck is playing 4 of the original BT7 Koichi. It's playing enough of the BT18 Koichi to basically kind of extend memory at the start of the turn because it's pitching a hybrid or 10 warrior to gain the memory. So you can put your Velgarmons and stuff in the trash. And it ends on having like Matt and Violet as extenders to basically make big pop-off turns where you swing, go in, mill, gain huge DP, and then like 10 to pass the turn with a Beelstarmon that is dropping an option card and fighting further on the board. So this is one variant of the deck. At the end of the day, this is also a Mother Shoto list. So there's Shoto Kazuma, Shine of B, and Mother Deer Reaper to make a giant blocker. But it's just, it sure is. I mean, heck, even down to the fact that the new Koichi is part yellow to Heaven's Judgment with is like, they've got everything.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
Well, it's part yellow, but also because of the wording of like for some reason they decided Duskmon will not lock you into purple. It can play out any color like 4-cost Lord.
Yes.
You can recur your Shoto as well to give you the green source for that.
Yeah, you can spit Shotos
for Judgment. For like Judgment as well. Like it's just
that is so weird.
Yeah, I've used this to play what's his name, Louis, and then like promote the rookie for game a couple of times. Like this card is very good.
Dusk is.
That's an SR, baby.
Yeah, this is a pushed card. So if this is, I think it's been a little while since we actually covered. Frustratingly, this is the first time Beelstarmon's topped in a while. So it might be worth going over their option cards. Rivals Barrage is the power crept variant of a lot of what like Purple used to want to do. Deleting the highest level Digimon is just an incredibly good effect for no memory when you play it off Beelstar. But also in this deck, it's a mill target, so you can use it to continuously get your pieces back over and over and over.
Yeah.
And there's also really good synergy synergy in the sense with this card and Velgar, because Velgar clears all the lower level bodies that will like as well. So you can probably keep control of like all the things as well. You can go from a complete board wipe from nothing is like, ugh.
Yeah, because that was a main thing that like Beelstar, like they would still run Rivals Barrage because obviously she's on the card that is designed to work with her as well as Beelzemon, but because Beelstar traditionally was draw 1, pitch 1, it was just like hey, if you're a single stack deck, then this is another copy of Fly Bullet. Whereas, if there was something pesky that was kind of getting in the way, like a memory floodgate, play cost floodgate, this would be a kind of dead card in hand versus something like a fly bullet. But any instance where she's actually able to mill, it is just a straight, like, strictly better card, which is why you see her OG signature move just at a single copy.
Yeah, I mean, having the ability to choose the thing you're taking out is very powerful. So
I think it not being tagged also is quite important because Violet can't pitch it, because this is before option cards were tagged.
Well, Violet pitches any option card, I think.
Oh.
I think she's option card or Ghost 3 Musket. That's kind of why she's so efficient.
Yeah, no, I read that as by trashing one option card or one card. Yeah, like one Digimon card. Like the option was included in the or statement. But yeah, no, it makes sense on its own. It's like pitch an option or a Digimon that fits this. Well, card that fits this.
Violet speeds this deck up tremendously. So there's a lot of love to be gotten out of this if you're a Beelstar fan. Obviously, like, you know, regardless of like my take on Beelstarmon, this is a really novel thing that we had yet to see. I don't believe it ever topped as high as 8th place in the Eastern format. So cool to see this like variant of the deck kind of pop off. Kudos to Andy. That's top 8. We had a couple folks here. I wanted to say just a reminder, because we're trying to push it a little bit. If you're here and you're watching live on YouTube, thank you very much. Remember to like the video because it helps us out a whole bunch. It'd be cool to you. And if you're on Twitch, Primes and stuff, you know where we're at. You can follow channel. You can subscribe to the channel with Twitch Prime. It's free if you've got Amazon Prime. So check it out. Look that up.
In terms of like the last things, I probably want to take a look at one Lord Knight and one Phoenixmon, because those are kind of crazy lists that we got to see. So we'll quickly get Lord Knight because it's one that is starting to get a little bit more representation everywhere. It's, you know, it is the purple good stuff deck of the format.
Yep. I think that's a really reasonable way to describe it. There's a couple things in this that we can go over. Deltamon is one of the cards people have been gassing up as like, whoa, this is good for its rarity. I think this is the BT 19 Deltamon, right?
Yes, the black cards are the 19 ones.
Yeah, so he's on play when digivolving, on delete.
Yeah, crazy. Non-once per turn as well. So
yeah,
in theory, if this is pre-played, it pops something. And then Cerberus gives it rush, it pops something. Oh wait, yeah, no, it's not when attacking. Yeah, it's on play when digivolving. Yeah, so it's still like a twice. Like it can potentially 2 for, well, 3 for 1 if it crashes into something. So diabolical card, and it's composite tag, which is relevant. Well,
yeah, it sure is. The other one that's funny is if you guys have not made the decision to pick them up yet, KnTElixar, this is as a reminder, he's shown up in this list. This is not a variant of the decks that like are exceptionally concerned about doing that, but there are cards in here. There is a Z Millenniummon that we're going to talk about in a sec, like we talked about, like kind of composite pop for game. KnTElixar is a composite, so this DNA evolution that you might just have with level 4s lying around can become a composite for which you can overclock. So very silly stuff you can do. Otherwise, Lordknightx had, I mean, there's been some tabletop gameplay here on the KnTElixar YouTube channel, but if you guys haven't read Lord Knight, he's collision piercing, digivolve 1 for each of your Digimon, and then stop things from evolving.
Yeah.
So he's kind of every good keyword black as a deck has ever gotten, and then as best as we could work out, he's purple because Lordknightmon wears pink armor.
I think it's because he's a bad guy in... This is the Frontiers Lord Knight, technically.
Yeah, true.
If we're going to be specific, it's like...
Homie.
Yeah, so that's why he's purple. But low-key, he's also still got that yellow flare in him, because he really does just have 3k plus alliance, like yellow Lord Knight would. So, like, he is not out of place in BT5 Lord Knight. They did a really good job of printing this cardboard.
Yes, it's a pretty good card.
Yeah.
But there's also the little things of like, even the like rare Lord Knight to me when I read it, I'm like, it's overlooked, but like being able to like on Digivolve play any like literally any level 4. Like I guess shout out to like DigiSean who decides like, you know what, I just need all the floodgates, so he just plays like a couple like pillow ones just in case. And the fact you could just spit this guy out, like, it's pretty cool. And the redirect into a Royal Knight isn't like nothing as well. Like if you're struggling to see your Lord Knight X.
It's really annoying as well, because one, it like turbo blocks like any deck that doesn't have the new flavor of please don't interact with me. Like it's like, oh, you can't be blocked, like word redirect. But also this is a deck that is abusing the easiest way to put retaliation on a body. So you have a retal redirector, not even retal blocker. We've gone past that. That's so old news. We have a retal redirector, and if you weren't able to splash that, like some of these things just have like crazy inherits. The Deltamon evolving for 2 goes over Ghazi because unfortunately, yeah, hindsight is 2020.
Yeah, it's very funny. There's a lot of people have said, there's takeaways from this archetype. Is it maybe like time to look at X antibody protoform as like a piece of an engine that just climbs and climbs and climbs forever?
Is
or the
this
dark
card
animal
making
cards
it
too much?
Yeah, it's crazy how like Cerberus X went from one of the most like it's fine parts of the dog engine to like the oh my goodness, this card cannot see the other side of like Christmas. There's no way.
Right. To be fair, though, like I read this card as like, okay, it's kind of fine. This is great. But then when you pair the inheritable with Alliance, it's just like, come on, my guy, please.
Yeah, especially because you can sequence it. Being able to sequence it the way where you get the Alliance, the power, and then go, all right,
I'm done with you now. Go for it. Like,
yeah, you get the plus of beating Blue Flare without needing to care about Blue Flare having another bot. Like, it's so dumb.
It is like the dap me up, and then you just soul drain them. Like, see ya.
Yeah. So that's Lord Knight. There's Phoenix to talk about, Andrew, if you're interested.
Yes, sir.
This is the Birds' big week out. It's been a deck that a lot of people I know have been hyping up, and it's hard to knock it when it's had like it. It's weirdly, I think, the most long-term topping red deck of the year. Like it's topped in the most formats of any red deck this year. And it's hard to knock it at a certain point.
I feel like it would have topped more as well if people didn't read Paladin mode and go, well, we're like low-key cosplaying as a purple deck, so we just shouldn't play this anymore. Because all the Birds players dropped it when 16 came out, because it's like, there's no way, or 17, it's like, there's no way we can play into this. But like, I don't know. Pally Ace hasn't gone
every
anywhere.
now and then too.
Yeah, like Pally Ace hasn't gone anywhere, and they're still like, oh, okay, yeah, no, we were just all like, dooming straight away. The Birds do still got it like that.
Yeah, Birds is also funny because it just like linearly gets better the more purple there is. So like if you are playing against just like nothing but purple and it's efficient deletion based on level removal, this is the deck to pick. If your locals is like 2 purple hybrid players and like a Zed player, well, Zed can give you some trouble, but like Millenniummon as a whole doesn't really want to interact with this deck much either. I can't recommend Birds enough. It's cheap, Jervil, and it'll get you there. Except for like Saberdramon. Saberdramon, I think, is still a little bit.
Yes, it was the only one that didn't get. So Saberdramon technically got reprinted by being in a different player pack. So for a while, it was one of the cheaper ones compared to something like Promo Seadramon or your Zubamons. But the Zubamons being in the in like the tournament pack for like regionals, really like that, and the Raremon have really crashed. So like the Saberdramon is probably still the most expensive of the promos from that set, but like it technically did have some reprints, so it's not like the days of old Doom. Like,
hold on, like think of it as an investment into your future of Birds. Look, it's gonna be the best deck someday soon.
I need to hit up my goat Demon Fang X and buy his shiny Birds cards off him, because he was selling a whole Birds deck recently, and I was like, dang, that could be me.
It's funny as well looking at this, knowing that I thought for sure I was going to see some of the things that our local Birds enthusiast has been looking at, and I'm not seeing some of these cards. We will not leak it, because hopefully he will just top, and then he'll be here next week or the week after to talk about how Birds is back on top. But yeah, this is really, really cool. Good stuff to the player that was able to get this one down. Like, red good stuff. Like, yeah, most of these cards are cards you see. Like, the newest card is literally Crimson Mode Ace, and it's just a reminder that once they make a 6, it doesn't mean you can go sideways freely anymore. There's still a couple.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will say this: one of the funny things is that when you come to like building Birds at the moment, there are kind of like parts of its gameplay pattern that like, a lot of people will say like, Birds is the best deck if you dodge blue all day. And it's like, sometimes you get to dodge blue all day. And a very like respectable 9th place showing. I'm sure Bubbling probably hurt on the day, but you know what? Like, bringing this to that level is pretty sweet. I would say the last like entirely novel variant of a list we've got on here is Dan Vang's 11th place list. This Imperial quote unquote deck he built is a little bit more like stuff we saw in Japan and a lot less like stuff we saw here.
It was also in Glasgow as well. Arm Imperial, I think it was the round 6 if you want to watch the Glasgow regional. I think it's the round 6 Imperial is an armor based one. The Hexablow is becoming a lot more common as well as like a please don't go sideways.
You've got a lot of sources. It's tough to go sideways when you're sat across from a DNA stack. Yep. My favorite part of this archetype is the Blitz Omnimon right now. I'm kind of obsessed with it. It is the extra damage for your Magnamon because you can make an uninfected Blitz Omnimon that goes in and wins the game. But also, it's another white level 7 for your Paladin mode, so you can steal the 3 off the Omnimon.
Yeah, because a lot of the time they're bottom decking their, like, unless they're playing into purple, like they're bottom decking their own trash anyway because they draw 15 million cards and are about to deck out. So it's like, now they get to do that. And triple hammer spark.
Yeah, very good stuff. If you guys aren't essentially familiar with this idea and you're like, why have they mixed this deck up? Magnamon X Antibody BT16 does not need a Magnamon in the sources, though there are Magnamons here. He just needs an armor form in the sources. So by making your DNA out of Togemogumons and Lydramons from 16 and 8 respectively, you can kind of cheese that and just basically make, like, you kind of get less memory net off of not using like Stingmon, XVmon, although people will still play those. You just kind of want to continuously build advantage off that. So
yeah,
this is the blue-green toolbox right now.
Where, and generally
like, the Nightclaw was red-blue, this is blue-green.
Yeah, the Magnamon generally, like, you can see it's only a 2-off compared to, like, I mean, the Tojo Mojo is there. You see a lot more reliance on stuff like the Wormmon to get some more value out of that, and the Stingmon drops to 1. Because the jamming is a lot more important than the piercing, and these being half green is what's more relevant for making the stack. One thing that's also of note as well is, as much as Awakening is at 1, Primogenitor is cheaper than Awakening. So when you make your 0 cost or, you know, +1 memory Imperialdramon, and then you spend 2 to turn into a Magnamon X Antibody, it is cheaper than going into Awakening. And then if you first check something that, you know, would spin your stack, partition out, because you now have like every possible keyword that protects you. It's pretty fun. Big fan.
Yeah.
So gross.
Kudos to Danny Ban. I mean, Dan Vang, the guy perennially, like, continues the top over and over and over again. So this is a fun one. This is cool because it's also, like, I think the longest I've seen like a variant of Imperial kind of get chipped at in a little while. So Imperial Doomers who are like, oh, my deck had its moment and it's kind of over. I encourage you to check out that it went 11th, 12th, 13th at this event and is joint first for the best represented converting deck in this format. So, thanks again to Eggman Events for covering everything. Appreciate the heck out of them. Fellas, do we want to do a quick, like, obviously we've been live for about an hour now going through some stuff here. Is there any other stuff you guys would like to highlight out of 2.0 that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet? Because I think we've done a little bit of, like, you know, specifically like, oh, the stuff that we're excited about, like, we brought it up here and there, but, like, you know, considering that this is like the 1 year and we're like 1 year out of starting this, where we were just sort of, this time last year we were yapping out like, I can't wait to finally have trainings.
I mean, in terms of like 2.0, I think one of the more interesting things for me personally is like the whole like what you'll need Dynus line. Because it's finally giving protection to yellow in some capacity. Again, at the cost of your security, which is good because it's less cringe, but bad because they've not given you a way to manage it very well. I think the entire like the new Wizardmon basically being a 1-cost Evo and a draw to get you cycles quite nice. Dynus Ace, for those of you who don't know, has been something that I've been trying out.
Really
and like
minus
6K, 16K blocker all turned with Raid is just like, there's something that just hits perfectly there. It's one of the decks that I think definitely could be like explored. I'm not really thinking it's like going to be like a top tier meta threat anytime soon, but like there's definitely a lot of potential.
Hey, I'll go as far as to say this. Terry's right that it's cool in its own archetype, but I like to remind people that the deck exists and does well every now and then. But this card is a very good option for Royal Knights top deck. Like Yggdrasil Egg Royal Knights like gets a lot of value out of this card. While you have 3 or fewer security blocker and gain 4,000 is obscene in the mid game. So it's a very silly thing. And like, sure, there are components where it's like you'd rather end on Dynasmon BT13 when you're making your big Omnimon board to like have the ability to pop the small stuff. But like -6 on attack with raid means that this thing converts extremely well into effect protected Digimon stacks we need to push out. So.
It's also it notably being -6, and because it's an ace natively low play cost, it means in situations where that albino Gabumon is sitting across from the board from you, you can just pay 7 to kill it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And still advance the game plan.
Boys, I'm not gonna lie to you. I did not read that it was on play when Digivolving and when attacking.
When attacking.
This entire time I've been playing it, I've been like, yeah, you know what? It's like, it's not once per.
No,
okay,
yeah.
Okay, so some cooking might need to be done at some point.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I've been Purge of the Royal Knighting this card out, but in Dynasmon it -12 something. So yeah, very good stuff. I love the call for Dynasmon. I'm a big believer. I also low-key kind of just think that any deck that can play Revelation of Light is heat right now. We talked about Angels on the podcast already. I heard Angels did well this weekend. That was a fun called shot. Wonder who made that one. But I want to highlight a deck that I've been kind of obsessed with recently. I don't know why it's gotten me. I don't know what it took to like make this the deck that I'm like hyperventilating over the idea of playing. But I'm going to drop a link here, Andrew, for DigiPanda's Lucemon list. I think that's... Oh, hang on. I forgot you can't share Eggman events. I'll just give you the staff list so we can do this. DigiPanda's Lucemon list has, like, inspired me. There are components to this where it's like this is sort of a, like, kind of get to grips with the archetype. But if you're not familiar with Lucemon, and you just sort of know him as that secret rare that got really annoying in BT8 Mastemon, or like, a card from Demon Lords. This deck has finally kind of hit critical mass on its own. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing and leak the whole sauce, but essentially the idea is all the QPmons are kind of like recovering resource generators. So like the Searcher Lucemon from EX6 is a known quantity. It helps you find pieces, finds angels notably. Which is really crazy. So I know a lot of people like to play like Cherubimon Ace in this archetype because you can use it to play Lucemons and it finds them. It finds level 5 Mastemon, level 6 Mastemon from like BT3, which like pops itself, makes Lucemon, plays Lucemon. Very good stuff. But the other ones are basically a chance to make your opponent give you a security, an on play directly recover +1, and a ton of other like little bits of advantage over and over again. And then like the kicker has been Lucemon X, which is just like the entire game plan of this deck is like your opponent can either give you one of their pieces or you get to heal and do damage. So I normally think we talked about this last week as well. Control decks have to kind of like cheat the risk reward ratio, or sorry, tempo decks and like mid-range decks have to cheat risk reward. Lucemon as a control deck does not. It will get there eventually. It will heal enough. It will burn enough. You're gonna get weighted out. So I'm kind of a fan of this being like a unique, like burn as a deck hasn't really like blown up in Digimon yet. And it feels like this, I don't know, this deck reminds me of like a Magic control deck in a lot of ways. So it makes my weird little lizard brain very happy to play with it. So I apologize to you two in advance for when I bring this to locals in 3 weeks.
Speaking of lizard, they finally put them in the game and he's there.
Yeah,
he's a cool card.
Very funny.
All right, but also just it's fine. Look, this is all fine. But as known yellow enjoyer Terry, that lovely the larva mode makes my blood boil. Like I'm just it's just why.
Oh, dude, I'm here with you, bro. Like, it sucks that 0 DP can't be deleted by anything. It's game state or like gameplay mechanic. So it's this card. If you guys like, if you're sick of your local Gallantmon player, this card can block indefinitely if it has blocker, and cannot be removed by the effect. There's literally no line of text in a lot of these red decks to out this one card. So it's very stupid. And then obviously in security it is Giga Baroken. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Lucemon. This is a fun list. There's a lot of variation you'll see with it. I've been messing around with like a Revelation of Light build to basically just make giant security threats out of my Lucemons themselves. But also like This permutation is on Biting, Crushes, and Leviamons, which is like a relatively popular one because it gives you something to do with Lucemon EX6 when he floats. Shoto is just like a good control tool. But there are other ones. This one's not on the new delay option they printed, which lets you basically evolve Lucemon straight into the nursery.
But or Dead or Alive.
Dude, sometimes Dead or Alive really does spawn a Satan mode. Like sometimes you pay 8 and make a level 7.
Yeah.
It's pretty stupid, I'm not gonna lie. And then end of all turns is the coolest way they could have written that line of text. Satan mode kind of cooked. I'm a big fan. The inevitability is coming. Like I said, this deck will get there. So I believe Lucemon a little bit. I think it's kind of a knowledge check deck, but I think also as of right now, some of the deck building for it is somewhat suboptimal. Like this is a really great starting point from DigiPanda, and I think like as the tournament format progresses, people will begin to experiment with like, oh, you know, like can conceptually this outheal things like a Leviamon? Like, does it have enough ways to mess with security? Like, does having things like Revelation mean you can DB minus a Lord Knight board enough? Like, there's a lot of like things to mess with. So
yeah, like some people call it like the next purple do nothing deck. Because you really do be draw one, trash one, or do nothing in purple as of late. Demon Lords. But Demon Lords still you'd be doing nothing to a top cut. So
yeah, very true.
Very good stuff.
Yeah, and then you know, Lord Knight X is also a Demon Lord card, so we don't even have to give him his flowers on that one. That card, I just sort of expect to see it win something in Demon Lords eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton of good stuff, man. We haven't even talked about Red Hybrid. It's out here. It's doing well. Maybe we make Red Hybrid wait till it gets a regional top. I believe in the deck.
Yeah.
Y'all haven't read Gigasmon yet. You're trolling. Cards bananas. Yeah, I mean, wooey. Rush Blitz. Wow, I love it.
It's funny because I was thinking about like what my pick of 2.0 is. I think it is. So like for me, it's rough because right now the way I'm playing Millennium, I did not realize the LM4 was just like not out in time for 2.0. So like I hesitate to say Millenniummon is my deck of the like 2.0 to watch, but the pure stuff is still very good. The problem is the rest of the pure stuff is using two of the cards that are not in 2.0. So it's really hard to recommend Millennium because it's like if you wanted to be on Garnet like I am, you don't have Garnet. And if you wanted to just use the Shademon and Nene, because they are like archetypal, I don't believe they're in 2.0 either.
Yeah, they'll be out in January.
So yeah, Millennium it has nearly everything. Like the fact that we got the new machine and stuff, like all of that, like all of those cards are great. Like if you wanted to play like full to the board, no Nene nonsense, Millennium is still probably fine. But it's kind of sourced once we get like either 2.5 or Garnet. I think Garnet is all we need. I still am not fully convinced on the Shademon Nene stuff, but like until I have them, I won't really start testing them because I want to test Garnet. But yeah, I struggle to recommend a 2.0 deck. But what I can say is Christmas, when we have Garnet, oh boy, you best believe I'm running it down on Millenniummon and Ragnar again. I will have a memory boost. It's real. I can't wait, bro.
I think there's enough of like an NA viewer base for like I think it's North American Nationals and LATAM Nationals will both be played with LM plus 2.0 format.
I just don't know that anyone will be on it unless Ben's back on it. Like I probably actually have to talk to him and see like what he's doing.
Where are the Machinedramon Andes when you need them to like top of the new Machinedramon deck, right?
In fairness, some of the new Millennium support is also insane. Machinedramon support. Chimera just going, you know what, but because I think I watched a video by Avid Herpetologist was running it through and it's like going, yeah, that does just say play Machinedramon for free, doesn't it? That's
oh yeah, plays the EX1 one for nothing.
Yeah, for nothing. You like it could be like, well, you can like gain them because you gain the memory off the old Machinedramon as well. Like you can keep turns, you can rush, heavy machines like I canonically hate Machinedramon, but when I saw him talk about what it can do, I'm like, you know what? That is pretty sick.
It is really, really sick as well because, like, I mean, Ben's topping Machinedramon list basically employed that strategy of, like, use the BT11, like, terrible machine to float into EX1 as a trap. Now he just can play good machines and then do that. So I'm excited to kind of like, I'm excited to see other people not sit across from me and see what the new Machinedramon cards do. But yeah, I mean, I think all those cards are really, really cool. I think Composite as a new type to care about is really interesting. And Blue Flare's not in the game. So
yeah.
But now Composite is back on the cool people list. It was doing its time in jail for being Cross 4 Turbo, and then it got let out of jail. And now Composite's like, you know, they cleaned up their image. They come back to Homecoming. You know, they got the Ferrari parked outside. But
I saw a lot of tournament footage that like really blew my hair back when I was watching BT19. Like in Japan BT19, they've got like Blue Flare as a menace to out a lot of the Millenniummon stuff because de-digivolving that card really does solve the problem. That's true for most stack decks at the moment. But the first time I was like, oh yeah, dang, they can kind of get around de-digivolve by just playing low to the ground Chimeramon beatdown. And like the deck was like 3 DNA Chimeramons because like it's so easy to be a 4-color Chimeramon and be like shrink everything dome stuff. The sec attack inherit is just like live. Like you can just do stupid stuff with it. I was a big fan. So, you know, maybe there's hope for those cards. Like, there's a lot of future design space. Reviving the usefulness of Promo Deltamon is not a card I thought would be like something I'd need to keep an eye on.
That's the thing. I desperately want to be playing with Garnets and like Promo Delta. I think I might, because I might be getting some bulk from Jamie and Jambo. So I might, like, if you see Millenniummon on the channel, assume that I needed a break from armor for like a week or two and like the brainworms took over. But like come December when I have 8 copies of Garnet, you will not see me resolving a blue card for months. I will be on exclusively Millenniummon and Ragnarlord. I will turbo to my level 7 and lose the game.
It's so sick that these cards ended up cheap too. Like the pull rates in in 2.0 have been fantastic. The budget-friendly player good vibes are back. It's such a sweet, like, I mean, like, especially if Millenniummon's gonna get support for like the next 2 or 3 sets, like, it's a great way to like encourage people to pick up new cards. So
yeah,
I'm a big fan.
It was actually what I was gonna say is my like, oh, what's your deck to look out for? I was like, the whole box. Like Bandai have really been listening to feedback. Like obviously we've given them a lot of flack, and obviously we don't have the cards right now because shipment delays or whatever, but I think they're switching to air freight now to stop this nonsense so we don't keep getting delayed sets. So we'll see how that goes, but obviously that's not a real issue for developed countries like the United States of America, which is the real place that competition happens. But like really, like, kudos to Bandai. Like people have been complaining about the SR pull rates ever since they changed to 10 SRs a box, and they've fixed it. So like obviously 2.0 is not the same as a BT set, but knowing that you're back to 3 hits for a box like an EX set feels really good. The pre-release equivalent means that people that like to arbitrarily foil their cards if they would be common have the option to do that, where an EX set doesn't. Yes, they say a different thing. Though. Yes, they say something different, but for the people that just want their cards to, you know, curve in warm weather,
then that shiny re.
Yeah, like if you need your cards to taco in warm weather, then there's a version of the card for you, which is great.
Dude, I gotta confess now, speaking of shiny cardboard tacos, I almost bought one of the signature Gilmons this afternoon for £69, and I just thought it was such a momentous moment in my life personally, like that it was worth £69 for a card that they're so cheap. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Gonna be all right. The Ghost Crimson mode is not cheap though, so
yeah. Good luck with that. I'm just generally really excited about the fact that like I'm not buying products because I'm not in a position to be able to do so right now, but like we still want to see if we can do some stuff. You know, things have not gone as planned this year, so the fact we got one case tournament done, maybe next year we'll get one. It may not be 2.5 like we originally planned. Stuff has happened. I have a cat now, so
we're spinning wheels.
Yeah, become a member if you want pictures of my cat. Like,
yeah, the community
pretty frequently.
Cat post goes crazy.
Yeah,
chat.
So yeah, I've been doing that now. But yeah, it's not just extra cardboard content. You just want random cat pictures. I remember. But yeah, 2.0, like really great credit to Bandai. They've taken a lot of feedback on board, and I was really worried as someone that didn't play 1.0 and, you know, the game was super expensive, all of that. They have made sure that has just not happened. Pull rates are brilliant. An additional pull per set is just great. And I think the fact that they committed to making most lines complete is really, really good. Like, obviously, you could argue that Millennium's missing something, but that's because Twilight stuff. Like, they got all of the pieces we need, both chimeras, both machines, and they're done, which is great. So kudos to them for making 2.0 actually a genuinely fantastic set to pull on. I hope 2.5 hits the same notes for the people that care.
10 SPs in a box, brother. You know I'm in there.
Look, man, if they do the same for 2.5, I'm happy because I'm telling you right now, I'm cooking you all on Shinegreymon. It's just happening.
Oh, I believe it.
It's time, baby. It's actually time. The running meme of being the highest placing Shinegreymon player in the room will actually be properly realized when it be me and one other person in the room.
I was gonna say at least more than 2 Shinegreymon players in an event, right?
Yeah.
No, the hype will be when people realize that you weren't trolling and that you do actually cook on that list. So it'll be a fun one. Taum on loop or otherwise, of course. I remain to be seen. I need to beat my demons and stop practicing Galacticmon like it's the thing I'm gonna take the Nats. It's so much fun. It's by a mile the most fun. I love just sitting down from like a random hybrid deck and being like, yeah, I got like 9 Tamer Pops in me. You ain't going the distance. So yeah, it's a good time. I'm having a ball with it. But I gotta practice for Nats. We will be seeing you guys, and all 3 of us will be there. I believe.
Yeah, we will be there.
We pretty much managed to get I think it's been actually impressive because I think I went to Nats in 20
you were there in 22.
22. Then everyone else went 23, and I was like, we can finally get 95% of the game there. 95.
Yeah, gonna be very hype.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not trying to play. Bandai, hit my line. I'm desperately trying to not play. I love talking about the game. I'm indifferent to playing the game.
Bandai, if you get me anything for the 1-year anniversary of us making this podcast, get me an Andrew on a microphone and get a new track. That'd be very fun. Get Marcio involved. Let him do some mid-round hosting if he doesn't want to be evil Marcio and play.
Wait, I'm sorry, but I'm a player first, and I need to cook with everyone on
Yeah, he just needs to kill people in 20 minutes, and then he can come be the third cast stage. Just I won my round.
What if we cast the 3v3 on day 2? That's the vision. Oh man, good stuff.
Yeah, Bandai Card Fest is going to be really exciting. We'll be there. Please come up to us if you see us and come say hi. I'll have member sleeves on me again. I did get to give some out in Glasgow, so yeah, members, all that good stuff. Yeah, it's a good place to be. Digimon is back to being sick. So the only thing I do wish is that it was like the JP Card Fest, where they could just buy LM4 on the day. I really wish that our set was available there. I genuinely, that's my only thing. I think we're getting the cool new alt arts for the boosts, their 4th consecutive alt art or whatever. But I do really just wish I could have bought garnets. I could go to Utrecht and buy garnets and have them. That's my only complaint, but it's a good thing to have. I hope I pull a ruin mode or something.
Yeah, that box looks it looks cool.
Easiest Christmas for any Digimon friend, family friend, and just that. Just point them at that. The easiest Christmas gift of your life.
Okay, I hear you. But then the non-Jessmon Andes will open Sistermon Blanc as their one of their special alts out of a box. You could have had a ruin mode or the new Grand Kuwagamon Ace alt and stuff like that. Real chase cards that people are yeah, I need mine. And then you get Sistermon Blanc's alt, even though she already has this exact alt from a regional pack. Yeah, it could be you. Also, I need to see it. They haven't finished revealing all the contents of the product yet, I don't believe. I'm crossing my fingers. We hear about protoform reprints. We're hearing some mixed things. So.
Yeah, it'd be a real shame if they weren't after I lost mine again. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning into the podcast. We're going to go get some bonus content done. We're going to be talking about Virus Busters because we have Terry on, and that's great for Yellow. Thank you for 1 year of support of the podcast. It's been really fun. We didn't think we'd make it past 5 episodes, but here we are 365 days later, still doing it.
I was joking earlier when we were I was doing my prep for some of this episode and going through the archetypes that had topped, and I was I wonder how many episodes most things make it on Spotify. Bro, we are 3 times longer than the average podcast episode and 3 times longer than the average podcast runtime. So 32 podcasts in 1 year, considering the misses and events and years we've all had. I'm gonna say we're meet us for round 2. We'll see you at table 2 next year. But yeah, it's been a treat. Thanks for being involved. Thanks for sending in takes for MemGauge or clips for Lethal Living if you've ever been involved. We appreciate the heck out of those.
Yeah, those will all be back next year. We're still just working out the logistics of some things. And for the people that need an additional reason, you asked for it. This is what you're funding now. this lovely little creature.
Yarg! It's Whitebeard.
But yeah, thanks for a whole year. Marcio will probably be back next week, and hopefully we will get more consistent guests. We've been learning from a lot of feedback, and we're all very grateful for the position you put us in. We've gotten to cast so many regionals off the back of being able to do this, all of us. So yeah, genuine heartfelt thank you to everyone that's been a member, has stopped being a member, everyone that's considered it and touched the join page. Hopefully this time next year we'll be able to say congrats and thank you to even more people, and hopefully Misplay for a Game LLC will actually be off of the ground, because I'll have done the creative work that I have been busting my ass for, and we will see visual stuff from it. Once Nats is done, I think we will finally have some time to breathe and do the visual side of what we need for that project. But yeah, onwards and upwards. 3K soon, and we'll have a Discord so you can keep up with the progress.
Thanks to Terry for, as always, holding it down when we need the GOAT to come through and enlighten us. I was so excited that we could coincide this with the week that the toolbox list you have been diabolically concocting in a lab has finally seen the light of day.
Well, it's definitely fun, and it's always fun to be on the podcast, joining in, being a guest. A little low energy, I'm not going to lie, currently, but it's always happy to be on. And
I like to think it adds to the mad scientist aesthetic.
Yeah,
you could always he's well lit at the moment, but conceivably Terry could be coming from the Batcave. And I've never seen him and Batman in the same room together.
Look, man, I think one thing, there's piles of bulk that I'm looking down at on my floor, on my desk. It's not a great sight. There has been definitely a lot of
It's not the Batcave, it's the Man Cave.
Personally, I think you should kind of treat it like how Pixelbud has all of those cards just resin printed into their table. I think you should just resin print all of your bulk and use them as food placemat.
I love that. Diabolical. Also not food safe.
No, probably not.
Got anything you want to plug, Terry?
So there is the PGSC channel, which we will
not a zombie channel.
Not a zombie channel. Currently struggling to be a consistent Digimon channel, but we will get there. We will get there. We have some ideas. It's just lining everything up, and being honest, the sort of issues of distribution does put a bit of a development plan and hamper on some of those plans.
Yeah, it's hard to catch the wave of new hype for a thing when we're sitting there with sample text written on our cards.
Yeah, but we'll hopefully be getting something pretty soon. In regards to New Year, hopefully we'll do the is it the Manchester sort of TCG Digimon TCG Twitter as well. We can get back with that as well.
Yeah, MCRD TCG.
Once again,
I reacquired my Adobe account. Yeah, put it that way.
If you're in the UK, remember, try to plug plug your list, plug your locals, show that you care about the game, care about your friends. Just give us all the information. We can be trusted.
For real. Yeah, let me know where you guys play your locals at. That'd be your, if you watch this far, let us know.
Look, if you do it, we might show up to your locals for support. That could be a thing.
And if you beat me at your locals, I will show up to your house. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Oh, that's good.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Baba Booey. Oh, he's not even here.